100 seconds to midnight. The doomsday clock, which was created by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, gets newly set each year in January. This year, the doomsday clock was set at 100 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been. It, of course, has to do with climate change, which poses existential threats to humanity. It calls for quick and comprehensive action for change. This performance we just saw still conveys a message of hope. The seed of hope was handed over to me, and I believe this youth-driven climate efforts is the signification of the seed of hope. The P4G Seoul Summit is at the center of this change. P4G spans around various fields from food to agriculture to water to energy to city and to circular economy. Various stakeholders of our society, including international organizations, consultative bodies, the private sector, and civil society, are all working together to build public-private partnerships. Still, the climate crisis has become what our youth is bound to confront in the future. So listening to their voices is of paramount importance. There can be no solution without their engagement. This is the reason behind designing the Global Youth Climate Challenges, GYCC. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GYCC Town Hall meeting, which is being held this year in connection with the P4G Seoul Summit. I am Euna Yu, the GYCC Global Project Manager, and it is my honor to be the MC for tonight's event. As one of the official events of the P4G Seoul Summit, this special session on future generation offers us a chance to listen to what our GYCC youth participants have come up with after a month-long in-depth discussion on climate action. Under the theme of zero waste, GYCC participants have been meeting on and offline, carrying out various activities together since March. From May 26, all participants finally got together in Seoul and had time to collect their opinions and finalize them, which will be proudly presented to us today. I believe there are some Zoom participants who have logged in already. Yeah, please show of hands. Thank you for your participation. It's regrettable that we cannot have you here offline, but hoping that we can meet next year. And please stay tuned until the end of the event. Thank you. So now, without further ado, let us hear the voices of the youth by commencing the P4G special session on future generation, GYCC Town Hall meeting. Before we listen to the voices of the youth and teens, there is someone very special and important I'd like all of you to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great privilege and honor to introduce you to the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations and the former chairman of the National Council on Climate and Air Quality, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. Please welcome me with a big round of applause.
Dear global youth and teams from all around the world, welcome to the P4G special session on Future Generation, the final event of this year's Global Youth Climate Challenges, GYCC. I'd like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to His Royal Highness Crown Prince Frederik and Her Excellency Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg, for sending us warm, congratulatory remarks. I'd also like to extend my appreciation to and warm congratulations to Professor Yoon Sun Jin, who was just appointed as co-chair of the 25th Carbon Neutrality Committee. Thank you for gracing for this event, ladies and gentlemen, for this very important event. Dear youth leaders, it was last November when GYCC was held for the first time. I still remember how passionately our young participants had participated and engaged in climate discussions even under the pandemic. This year's GYCC is even more special in that it is being held in the lead-up to the P4G Seoul Summit under the theme of zero waste. I very much looked forward to the offline heated debate this year among bright young minds from all over the world, but it is still regrettable that the pandemic is still holding us in its tight grip. I wish that the world will overcome COVID-19 together soon and return to our normal lives. Ladies and gentlemen, the report on the state of the global climate 2020 by the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, revealed specific data that proves global temperatures is rising, along with the increase in greenhouse gases resulting in weather extremities. Moreover, scientists warn us that there are not many years left for the Earth if the temperature continues to rise unabated. But encouraging news is that 40 countries responsible for 80% of total greenhouse gas emissions have taken the initiative to make joint efforts. At the Leaders' Summit on Climate held on the Earth Day, sponsored by President Biden of the United States on April 22nd, 40 world leaders declared the ambitious goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reaffirmed their strong political will to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Older generations are responsible for passing down a cleaner planet to future generations. It is no longer acceptable to inflict more damage upon the planet for our affluence and convenience. We must listen to the innovative ideas of the passionate young people and cultivate next generation leadership to overcome the climate crisis. At the recent Leaders' Summit on Climate, a 19-year-old Mexican environmental activist named Xie Bastida said, I quote, "The era of fossil fuel is over," unquote, calling for bolder measures to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. It was the second time after Greta Thunberg that a teen climate activist sent such a powerful message at the world leaders gathering. In fact, I saw her in 2019 during United Nations General Assembly, where President Moon Jae-in also participated. Before all the leaders were sitting, Greta Thunberg was making her very clear voices to the world leaders. You leaders, you have taken my dream away. I will never forgive you. This was a powerful message by a 16-year-old girl. There are many more and more such young boys and girls are coming out to raise their voices. I highly applaud their courage and their global vision. It is our moral duty, and for politicians, political duty, that we make sure that we leave this planet Earth sustainable, environmentally friendly for our succeeding generations. I have been speaking out so many times as Secretary General of the United Nations that they should be accountable if they do not do their proper responsibility as political leaders. It's not only political leaders, all the business leaders, they are a very important part in making sure that our dreams and our planet Earth will be kept environmentally sustainable. As one of the previous generations, I myself feel heavy-hearted and also at the same time proud whenever I see young people like yourselves, climate activists. The international community has to embrace their calls and provide them with sufficient answers, as our youth will be the future leaders of the earth. Lastly, I'd like to urge that younger generations should also continue to speak up and actively engage in climate action. I used to talk to young leaders, challenge your leaders, challenge your president, ministers, business CEOs, make sure that leave this world sustainable for us. That's your prerogative. That's your right. If they don't listen to your voices, just shout before them. I believe that if you act with courage, we will be able to secure a sustainable future together more quickly. Dear global youth and teens around the world, I look forward to listening to the forward-looking and insightful messages you will be delivering today at the town hall meeting. I truly believe that your voices today will be heard loud and clear, encouraging and empowering all the like-minded world leaders and all the generations for united climate action. I'm sure that you would have faced a lot of challenges due to the pandemic, but your journey with the GYCC will be remembered and cherished by all of us. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all participants and everyone who has put in hard work to organize this wonderful conference. Today, we are celebrating the final GYCC 2021. But this is not the finish line, but a new start. Under the shared goal, we'll continue to listen to your voices. I ask for your continued interest and support in this journey. Ladies and gentlemen, dear young leaders, let us work together to make sure that we leave our planet Earth sustainable, environmentally friendly for our succeeding generations. That is yours and my responsibility working together. Thank you very much for your passion and compassion, and thank you for this opportunity. 감사합니다. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, for your warm, welcoming address. My heart is pounding from his message. And ladies and gentlemen, all of us are the inhabitants of this only planet we have. Therefore, we have the right to speak up and listen to one another. So there are special people who have sent their voices from the other side of the world. So let's take a listen.
10 years ago, when this residence, a 17th century palace, was in desperate need for major renovation, restoration, and upgrade, it was only natural for my wife and me to set a goal for the project. We wanted it as modern and as green as possible. It was natural because going green is not a choice reserved for the few. It reflects the general attitude in Denmark. Every morning, you see the streets of Copenhagen full of people, young and old, commuting on bikes, no matter if it snows or rains. Homes are well insulated, and 50% of our electricity comes from wind power. In the summer, the canals and harbors are fringed with youngsters sunbathing and taking a dip, enjoying the clean water in the middle of our capital. How did we achieve this? Well, 50 years ago, we were 100% dependent on oil and suffered the full consequences when the oil shortage hit hard in the early 70s. The structural vulnerability forced us to think smarter, to construct more energy-efficient buildings, and experiment with alternative energy sources, which sparked the Danish windmill adventure. So began a slow but steady transformation of our society, leaving us much less dependent on oil. And here we are today, with sustainability grained into our thinking, into all our products, as it is deeply rooted in you, our young generation. You use all channels at hand and demand to be heard. This is felt across the world and also in my home country, where we've set up one of the most ambitious climate targets in the world, 70% cut in emissions before the year 2030. Now is the time for action, to counter climate change and to do so in a way that creates jobs and access to education. We need to make sure that our future generation has a fair chance. We need to build back better and greener. In Denmark, we promote development not just for, but with and by young people. We see young people as more than beneficiaries. I believe we have an obligation to include you when we make decisions about the future. You are part of the solution. That is why Denmark has a Youth Climate Council advising our ministers on how to tackle the climate crisis. I feel encouraged knowing you're all working hard for a fair and green future from all corners of the world. You deserve it, and we owe it to you to give you a bright and livable future. You are the future. Seize it.
It is my great pleasure to address you today. When I was young, I was told that the youth are advocates for the future generations. And that is true. But you can also help find answers to pressing challenges of today. You are experiencing the effects of climate change, environmental degradation, loss of biodiversity, and pollution. We need your innovative ideas and solutions. And you have lived through unprecedented times of a global pandemic. This will most probably be a defining period for your generation. You will bring this with you as we strive to build back better for tomorrow. Solid waste management affects everyone. As individuals managing our own waste, or governments providing waste management services to the society. Today, some 2 billion people lack access to basic waste management worldwide. The World Bank estimates that global waste generation will outpace population growth by more than double by 2050. This will have impacts on the environment, on health, and prosperity. Thousands of tons of plastic waste end up in the environment and our oceans. Today, some 40% of global waste generated is not managed in an environmentally sound manner, causing harm to human health and the environment. But the good news is, we can do something about it. Mismanaged waste is a waste of resources. Waste is a resource in the circular economy. My ambition is that Norway will be a leading country in developing a green and circular economy. You can take that as a pledge from my generation. We need to transition from waste to value. One example is plastic waste. If managed well, plastic can be reused many times. In Norway, 90 young entrepreneurs in the waste management sector have joined forces. They are starting to think creatively on how to use waste as a resource. In a circular economy, for a more sustainable future, this gives me hope. I encourage all of you to take a lead in your communities for a sustainable future. And I wish you a very successful event.
Thank you, everyone. Now, finally, it is time to invite our youth and teen participants to the floor and listen to their voices. First of all, we would like to listen to the voices of our last year's participants, alumni of GYCC 2020, who will take the lead with their stories and experiences of how they advanced their projects compared to last year. So shall we take a listen?
Hi, we are Taco. Of course, we are all imagining these cheesy, beefy tacos that many love. But at the same time, we just described one of the most harmful combinations to our planet. Food systems, especially the meat and dairy industry, account for over 1/3 of the global greenhouse gas emissions. That includes everything from the land-based sector up to the disposal of food. But the biggest contributor is animal agriculture. In fact, animal agriculture produces more emissions than the combined exhaust of all the world's vehicles. That means that it's not necessarily about where our food comes from, but what we are eating. And the truth is, every one of us is contributing to that number. Every time we choose beef over vegetarian meals, we are deciding for a product that emits up to 50 times more carbon dioxide. So, how can we make better decisions in the future? Our app, Taco, can help with that.
Our app Taco is a smart digital tool that's just for you. So let's talk about culinary options. In other words, let's talk about CO2. Taco is for everyone because every one of us makes food choices every day. It'll show you how easy it can be to transition your diet, not by feeling pressure to become vegan, but by making little changes with this personalized recommendation. Before Taco, people used to make food choices based on convenience, taste, and price. Now be aware of the ingredients. Next slide, please. Yes. So you can now filter your food menu based on the ingredient, like meat, fishery, and dairies even. Actually, what do you guys want for dinner tonight?
Maybe pizza?
Yes. Let's say you're craving for pizza tonight. Now. Next slide, please. Yes. This app will show you how much carbon footprint you can reduce. Like this will show you the traditional pepperoni pizza and its carbon footprint, but it'll also show you how much carbon footprint you can reduce by choosing the alternative like potato pizza. So we give you the options and the choice is yours. And to motivate you to make better decisions, we'll also show you how much progress you're making and how many impact you can actually have on Earth.
You don't fully get the idea of how this will have an impact on Earth? Okay, let's say you go for a chicken burger instead of beef burger today and see how much contribution you can make. Next slide, please. By changing one single menu, you can save a great amount of carbon emission as well as water and land. Furthermore, transitioning a diet doesn't mean you have to give up everything. Eating less meat or switching to lower impact meat such as chicken or pork can be an alternative to reduce your dietary footprint. With these little changes, we can then make a huge impact. Because if more consumers demand less meat, the market and the production will eventually follow. So remember, your purchase is your vote. Start transitioning your diet with taco and make every decision count. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, let's please welcome Hero for Zero.
Hi all, I'm Kunsun Park, the team lead of Hero for Zero. I'm also a social activist working on a global scope and was the general moderator of GYCC 2020. Hero for Zero is the idea to connect companies and NGOs to circulate resources and to build up sustainable communities by IT platform. Let me continue on the screen. Passionate and talented youth from around the world have gathered up to support the idea. Let me introduce more about it with my team members.
Hi, I'm Nicola Kundarakis from South Africa.
Hi, I'm Asif Hassan Jisan from Bangladesh.
Hi, I'm Sima Pandey from Nepal.
Hi, I'm Ariane de Rosier from Hong Kong.
While working at both companies and NGOs, I have met companies who wish to donate their unwanted products to NGOs, and also met NGOs who wish to receive the donated products. But as they are all in different fields, it always seemed that they are having difficulties being connected. So I thought, how can we connect companies and NGOs to reduce wasted products and fulfill each other's needs?
Hero for Zero's service offering includes an online portal, which allows holders of unwanted goods and raw materials to match with social organizations that can make use of them, thus diverting from landfill and keeping the goods in circulation for as long as possible. Hero for Zero will also offer consulting services to organizations looking for ways to reduce their waste, and will derive revenue through a freemium model linked to the online portal.
As an IT platform, the role of Hero for Zero in terms of delivery will be passive. We can collaborate with airlines for international deliveries and with delivery companies for ground operations. It can be part of their CSR duties. But quality management needs to be an active operation. We will need to carry out quality management on both ends. This might add some expenditure or human resources, but will reduce the loss in distribution and enhance the quality of our work.
So moving to our networking ideas, we'll be actively using SNS platforms to grow the network through engagement campaigns, posts, and ads. YouTube will be our next platform to show our work more lively. We will also be organizing meetings with companies and NGOs along with mentorship and networking webinars through Zoom.
Hero Hero for Zero will bring tremendous value to both donor companies and receiving NGOs. By utilizing surplus resources, we'll be reducing the impact of excess consumerism. We are also helping our partners align with zero waste and circular economy principles, which will bring social, CSR, and ESG value to companies. Lastly, these partnerships will build up a global network between NGOs and companies that can further lead to climate action.
To test the idea's feasibility and measure the impact, we are working on a pilot case to be done in upcoming months. We have designed an oral care product with our partners to make use of wasted products and support vulnerable communities in Africa, Uganda. Now, back to the stage.
Did you enjoy our idea? Thank you. Join us and we all can be heroes. Thank you again. Next, introducing the PUI team.
We are not the only creatures living on Earth. Sometimes like friends, sometimes like family. We share our emotions, and we share our lifestyle. Oftentimes, these creatures need the same things we need. Just like us, they must go to hospitals when they're sick. They must buy food from the supermarket. They come to follow our urban lifestyle. But as a result, sometimes our companions also take part in our mistakes. Did it ever occur to you?
We are not the only creatures living on Earth.
Work for
A greener future.
With PUI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sylvia Lee, and I'm a representative of our team, PUI. So these are our team members. As briefly discussed in the video, although the question of dog waste may not appear as threatening, it is currently contributing to the problem of methane gas, as well as a serious plastic waste problem, not to mention that leaving dog waste on the street is another issue on its own. So what we wish to do is quite simple. We will be hosting a campaign for a span of 3 weeks, and we will be distributing biodegradable bags, PUI stamp cards, and brochures. Each time you revisit our booth, a stamp will be given, and for each PUI card that has 4 stamps, 10,000 Korean won will be donated. In addition, we will be locating dog waste-only trash bins to collect the dog waste. In the long term, our mission is to collect these dog wastes and convert it into biomass energy. Also, in the end, we wish to automate this whole process so that later on in parks, we can install smart biodegradable bag dispensers and smart trash bins that only open for those who bought the biodegradable bags. This way, the waste can be more effectively collected and sent to energy facilities. The ultimate goal is to raise awareness of greener coexistence with dogs in urban settings. So everyone would know that the P4G summit commences tomorrow. The message that we wish to leave for this summit is that animals are often excluded from the P4G table. However, if humans are not the only ones living on Earth, then shouldn't the problems caused by animals, as in our animal companions, as well as the damage caused to wild animals, be discussed together? So this is the question I want to leave to you, and thank you so much for listening.
So ranging from the eco-friendly pet walking campaign to IT platform that connects companies and NGOs and those that contribute to CO2 mitigation, many inspiring challenges and ideas were shared. So I think the key takeaway that resonates with all of us today is that small action in everyday life really matters and leave a big impact in climate change. So now, let's listen to the voices of this year's participants. 84 young people from 36 countries have been engaging in group discussion for the past 3 months since March. So they were broken down into 6 groups that are urban household waste, industrial agricultural waste, food waste, marine river waste, plastic waste, and finally land and forest waste. So let us invite the presenters to the floor and listen to the 6 proposals that followed much deliberation and discussion.
Why should we care?
Pourquoi devons-nous s'en préoccuper?
Kenapa sih kita harus peduli?
Pourquoi est-ce que vi bekymrade?
왜 우리가 관심을 가져야 할까요?
¿Por qué nos debería importar?
Warum es uns kümmern sollte?
Why should we care?
Bakit kailangan kong makialam?
अय्या पिसाला के लिए मत बनना
Parva क्यों करना चाहिए?
بدك شون كقرار مدن ارتير مدبشتايا.
Hello, everybody. We are the participants of the Global Youth Climate Challenge 2021, and today we want to show you why we should not underestimate the youth in tackling zero waste and establishing the circular economy.
We are your presenters,
Corinne
and Jihi. So before we tell you why we should care, we would like you to join us into a very simple game called the 5 Fingers Challenge.
Starting with 5 fingers, each time you are able to answer a question, put down 1 finger. For example, Jihi,
yes?
Do you know my name?
Your name. Okay, that's a difficult one. I'm just joking, Corinne. Of course I know your name.
Okay, what about, do you know what P4G stands for?
Of course I know. Come on.
Okay, do you know the size of your carbon footprint?
What? You know what? It's your turn. So please raise your fingers, everybody. And remember, fold your fingers only if you know the answer to the questions. So our first question is, fold your fingers if you know how much waste do single households produce annually.
Single households.
So, do you guys know? Data shows that 1-person households can produce just double as much waste as a 4-person household. Why should we care about this? Well, the truth is that the number of people living alone is increasing globally. In Korea alone, single households comprise 29% of the total in 2018, and estimations show that this number will continue to increase and will get up to around 35% by 2035. Therefore, we are designing a social media campaign that targets people in their 20s from high-income countries. We aim to create a community that shares information, guidance, support, and motivation. We believe that young people can be easily reached through social media and that these platforms can also provide us with a sense of community and encouragement that might be lacking in our globalized and busy society. By adapting an informal approach and creating content relatable to young people, we want our platform to emphasize that it is the small actions that have the biggest impacts, and that climate change can be tackled in a simple, basic, and daily manner. An example of this content will be this post that my team has already made, where we share basic tips and basic information on how to recycle while living alone. Furthermore, by creating a community, we aim in the future to gain a significant voice so we can formulate and promote petitions, as well as influence policy and law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you for your idea on urban household waste. So on to question number 2. Put down a finger if you know how much plastic waste we will create by 2040.
2040, huh? Okay.
So, the amount of plastic waste created by 2040 is estimated to reach 1.4 billion metric tons. And this is assuming that things are going to be business as usual until then. This is a dramatic increase from the just 600 million tons estimated 4 years prior. However, with the outbreak of COVID-19, it is not business as usual anymore. Single-use plastic has been surging at unprecedented rates, and we will face the consequences much sooner than we expected. Regarding plastic waste, consumers, businesses, and the government are all interconnecting, influencing each other. However, we believe that the connection between the consumer and the government is too weak. Even though we raise our voices at events like this, it is short term and we are unsure if our voices are creating actual change. Therefore, we suggest establishing a youth committee who are devoted to solving plastic waste problems. This committee will be composed of youth representatives acting as a bridge between the youth and the government. The youth committee will continuously collect voices of the youth and deliver them to the government so that they can be acted upon. Not only will the committee ensure that youth voices are heard, but they will also inspire within their own circles and communities so that the problem can be acted upon now. Through the committee, we can expect continuous involvement, striving towards zero waste, creating a better place for us all. Thank you.
Thank you for your ideas on plastic waste. Now, moving on to our third question. Fold your finger if you know what is the amount of food waste that goes to the food banks.
Food banks.
Food banks.
Yes, so how much of global food waste goes to the food banks? Can you imagine that it is only 0.04%? Our solution to this is a bottom-up approach that aims to redistribute uncooked leftover foods to the people in need. Our idea is to integrate school children aged from 13 to 17 years into this process in order to also educate them about the problems related to food waste. We want to organize project days on which the pupils go door to door around the neighborhood and collect the foods that the households would have thrown away. For example, non-perishable foods that they don't want to use, or foods that are about to expire and that they will not be able to eat in time. These foods can be utilized by local food banks that take care of cooking and/or distributing. We plan to manage this project through collaboration with teachers, accompany the pupils during the collection, as well as arranging transportation and communication between the schools and the food banks. Providing hands-on experience starting at a young age will create a habit and build a behavior that the children will learn for life. This will have spillover effects across all sectors through increased food security or reduced costs for food production. Finally, most importantly, it is a great way to save natural resources when we stop wasting what we have already produced. Thank you.
Thank you for your idea on food waste. And on to our question number 4. Please put down a finger if you know how many people around the world are affected by plastic-contaminated seafood.
Plastic seafood? Ugh.
Does anyone know how many people? Well, the answer is 3 billion. 3 billion people are exposed to the health risks associated with consuming plastic-contaminated seafood. Not only does plastic pollution cause human health problems, but it also degrades the environment and kills animals. Rivers are a major contributor to marine pollution as they carry the pollution out to sea. But only 10 rivers are responsible for 90% of marine pollution. Our solution is to transform river and marine plastic pollution into something valuable. We aim to target developing river communities who are most vulnerable to this plastic pollution. By identifying these communities' needs, we can provide the tools necessary to turn plastic waste into usable materials. On a small scale, we can help engage local women to use their skills to create products made from the waste found around their communities. And on a larger scale, we can turn river and marine plastic waste into intermediate substances that can be used as building blocks for a variety of products, such as bricks for homes. We intend to work alongside organizations to build facilities which enable the processes of collecting waste while also melting down this waste and turning it into a final product. We plan to take advantage of pre-existing energy infrastructures to provide the energy needed to power these upcycling facilities. Our solution will reduce the amount of plastic pollution entering the aquatic environments while simultaneously providing jobs and creating a circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you for your ideas on marine wastes. Now, moving on to our final question. Put down a finger if you know how many hectares of trees have been cut down or burned so far this year.
Just this year?
This year.
Can you guess the amount of trees that were removed in this year? It is around 11 million hectares, which is the size of Iceland. So we need transition to greener methods, but also we must change young consumers' perspectives through online platforms. And that's why we are aiming to educate and aware young consumers on the issues of burning wood biomass. We plan to do so by creating a website which is called My Biomass Footprint. It is an online calculator that tells you how many emissions were created from your biomass electricity consumption. Then it tells you X amount of trees that must be planted to offset that carbon footprint. Next, users are guided to a donation page so that they can take real actions. All donations will be sent to One Tree Planted, a global reforestation organization. And next, users are guided, and this is not only holds users accountable for deforestation, but also increases awareness on the severity of this issue. And lastly, creates a platform for users to inspire each other. Once donations are made, users are encouraged to share their zero waste actions through social media. So, throughout this whole process, we believe that we can get close to the sustainable land and forest. Thank you.
Thank you for your idea on land and forest waste. So how many fingers did you put down? Let me see your beautiful hands. How many fingers? I am looking, I'm doing an average in my mind right now, and I see almost everyone has 5.
Oh, I see a fist on this side.
You see a fist?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for anyone who is able to turn their 5 fingers into a fist, you're on the road to zero waste.
We hope you can now see why we should care about waste problems and how we need solutions that takes all of us on board. Young people, businesses, government, and most importantly, you.
We want to support the development of initiatives that tackle zero waste. For example, better recycling and waste management infrastructure, funding for innovative business solutions, and controls on plastic production.
Moreover, our project work shows that we want to create spaces that is not up to our leaders to determine our futures.
We want climate governance which is as much local as it is international.
We want solutions that involves the youth and that do not underestimate our involvement.
This is all our problem. That's why we should care.
I wish to see a really big and serious campaign that reaches far and wide and really shocks people into action.
We also need to advocate and to raise our voices to pass more legislations around the world that prohibit single-use plastics, not only in Mexico, but in the entire world.
I hope as a team we can work and find good and strategy solutions
and start communicating with the government.
And I think our government has to provide more incentives to invest in these technologies, not only for companies, but also for consumers themselves.
Improving the current bioplastics and supporting it with legislation.
It's important to be responsible for proper decomposition and recycling of our wastes.
Before that, we need to make sure we don't produce waste anymore at the first place.
So, can you guys do it?
It was indeed truly memorable and impressive to hear all these creative ideas that could be adopted in the 6 sectors that require most efforts for zero waste. All presentations, I was able to feel how much energy and dedication has been put into to come up with such wonderful ideas like these. So global warming, endangered animals, waste problems, these are not just the concerns of our older generations. In fact, our youth may have a better understanding of the severity of environmental degradation and the climate crisis. Perhaps all we need is a little more interest in small actions practiced in our daily lives. Today, we have a very special session prepared by the youngest group in this room. They may be the youngest, but their passion and energy would trump all of us's. So let's take a listen to the voices of teens.
차렷, 공수, 인사.
안녕하세요.
Let's greet.
네, 저희는 청소년 목소리 세션
Yes,
사회를 맡은
we
정근영.
are the two moderators of
여러분을
this training
뵙게 되어
session.
반갑습니다.
Nice to meet you all.
네, 방금 영상을 통해 본
Right,
것처럼
as you
저희가
have just
참여한
watched the video,
페스타
the Youth
60여일의
Voice Festa,
여정은
which
의미
lasted
있는
60 days, was such a
시간이었습니다.
meaningful
그렇죠?
event.
네,
Do you agree with this idea? Yes, I do. And in particular, including Korea, Vietnam, Japan, Kenya, Mexico, India, Madagascar, Haiti, and Taiwan, 112 youths have participated in the discussion for climate actions. 112 young people from 9 different countries to talk about climate action. That's impressive. They also have had a chance to think about the future and their actions for it. And you must be curious to know what kind of activities have been conducted in each country. So from now on, let's meet them in the video.
Hello, welcome to Megwara CDP Evergreen Club.
Planting trees, anything like
Evergreen Club involves activities such as protecting water catchment areas and natural habitat for wild animals and indigenous species.
This event involves planting of trees and conserving the environment.
Một nhóm các bạn học sinh đầy những vỏ chai lọ, bao bì xuống bãi cỏ và mình cảm thấy rất là khó chịu. Và mình đã nói với các bạn ấy rằng là các cậu không được như vậy, các cậu phải nhặt những cái chai lọ và bao bì đó và vứt vào thùng rác chứ. Nhưng điều bất ngờ là bạn ấy đã nói với mình rằng sao phải dọn, bởi vì các bác lao công, các bác ấy cũng sẽ dọn cho chúng mình, cần gì chúng mình phải dọn những cái thứ đó chứ. Đó cũng chính là lý do mà mình sáng lập ra nhóm Green Việt Nam để nhằm thay đổi nhận thức của tất cả các bạn học sinh về việc bảo vệ môi trường.
interested in the environmental problems, especially marine pollution. Let's get together for the earth.
와우. 네, 이렇게 멋진
So,
청소년들과 함께해서
such an
너무
outstanding
영광이었습니다.
video, and that we
특히
are
마지막에
also
일본
very proud of
오키나와 팀은 저희 제주바람과도
proud
많은
of being
점에서
with them, and
공감할 수
also they
있었습니다.
one from Okinawa.
꼭 다시
We
이
found that we
친구들과
have many
실제로
things in
만나고
common.
싶습니다.
Hi, Yuna, and we want to meet you in person very soon here. And we want to introduce the activities of Jeju Baram, the wind of Jeju Island of Korea. Yes, you are right. I just
깜빡할 뻔했는데요. 자, 그럼
have almost
이제부터
missed this team, Jeju Baram.
소개 활동을 소개하도록
Let us now
하겠습니다.
introduce their
영상으로 한번
activities.
만나보시죠.
Please meet them on the video first.
안녕하세요. 표동중학교 제주바람팀 정근효,
김연주, 서혜라, 김지민입니다. 저희는 유튜브 제주바람 채널을 개설해
한 사람이라도 더 기후위기에 대해 공감하고 행동으로 실천했으면 하는 마음으로
생태환경 영상을 제작하고 관련 캠페인을 진행하고 있습니다.
우리는 우리의 미래를 지키고 싶습니다.
네. 저희 제주바람은
Yes,
유튜브 제주바람
Jeju Baram has opened their YouTube channel called Jeju Baram so that they would like to make videos on ecological environment that encourages people around the world to protect and preserve the environment together. And secondly, the school organized tree planting campaigns and earth day campaigns through activities such as hanging on plants and making mugs to use in everyday life led many other students to engage in. And also, Jeju Baram conducted a swallow exploration activity to find and protect the swallows whose populations are decreasing due to climate change. And they just established buttresses so that they can protect the swallows. And also a dung tray under the swallow's nest. And they want to observe the little creatures of nature grow together in the vegetable fields of the schools. And we want to continue our lives with little creatures on the earth, and for this sustainable life, we do little actions in daily lives, and also to tackle climate change. We raise our voices together. Up to now, we have summarized our journey for the past 60 days from Korea and overseas countries. It was such a meaningful and significant time, and our journey will continuously last.
그럼 이제 또 다른 우리 친구들의 활동을
And it is
소개해 보도록
also
할까요?
time for us to introduce other friends, right?
미래를 이끌어갈
Do we
에코리더
still have
글로벌
activities to be
에코리더즈의
introduced? Sure,
소개합니다.
Global Eco Leader.
안녕하세요.
Hello.
글로벌
2020 Global Eco Leader Lee Yuan and Chu Ho-young.
작년에 에코리더로서 지구를
Last
위한
year,
다양한
as an
에코라이프
eco leader,
활동을
I have done
했는데요.
lots of the eco life
그중
activities.
가장 기억에
The
남는
most memorable
활동은
activity of
아마
all is the
오랫동안 준비했던
global
지구를
eco
위한
branding
글로벌
activity
에코
that
브랜딩
we
활동인 것
prepared
같아요.
for a long time.
네,
Right, we took a look at the life cycle of the toothpaste and the toothbrushes. After that, we created products that are not only eco-friendly, but that many people would love. And the Econut toothbrush is made of the acorn and the peanut shell. After this has been used, it can be planted in the ground and it will grow acorn and the peanuts. Our hope was that it can help the earth. And if you have the paper-thin koala toothpaste in your mouth, it bubbles up. It can even be used as a mouthwash. Let's look at the chewing toothbrush, which turns into a toothbrush just from chewing. It was amazing that it comes back to the original shape. Paste 20 solid toothpaste is easy to use and it was pretty. And for the Hyo toothpaste was made for the elderly people, and also we have the Chika toothbrush for the small children. And this was a really good product for the eco-friendly consumers. And also we create the Panda toothbrush that was made for the family tour. And you don't have to worry about the scattering toothbrushes, and it is really good for your family trip. Of course, the toothbrush head can be detachable and you can use it for a long time. And there's the solid toothpaste that bubble when I put it in my mouth. I didn't need a toothpaste container because it fits inside the toothbrush stick. Plus, there was a secret hidden in the wrapping paper, right? The wrapper was made from the recycled milk carton and it contains seeds. So if we plant it in the ground, the seed will grow. And we have considered lots of the eco-friendliness starting from the scratch. So when we did the eco-branding, we were worried if we could make the right eco-friendly product. Of course, we needed to make it better, but I hope that we can have more and more ideas and we can make better products. If everyone thought more about the environmental issues and tried to practice eco-friendly activities, I believe the Earth will be healthier in the future.
Lonely us, lonely us. 우리 작은 행동이 모여서
I'm the global leader,
안녕하십니까? 저는 글로벌 리더
Since the
오승아라고
coronavirus
합니다.
pandemic entered Korea, my life
한국이
as a student has been
코로나 바이러스
affected in
팬데믹을
extreme
겪게
ways.
되면서 저도
For instance, instead of attending schools physically, I took online classes, and instead of eating in restaurants, I had to order delivery food. The use of plastic has increased because the delivery food containers, masks, and straws are all plastic. Did you know that 83% of waste that is thrown in the ocean of our peninsula is plastic? In 2050, there will be more plastic than marine animals. Plastic will dissolve into microplastic and be consumed by animals and even us humans. In the Youth Environmental Conference, I had the opportunity to represent a nation in debating and resolving the brutal problems of zero waste to change the status quo. We learned that in order to minimize the sheer volume of trash, it was our priority and responsibility to use such materials sparingly, and this can all start from decreasing the usage of simple delivery food containers. To take initiative and to convey the seriousness of the problem, we created a campaign song. Have you heard of the song Lonely Night? My peers and I have enthusiastically altered the lyrics of this friendly, exciting song. The song we made contains a strong message of acting upon global warming altogether. We recorded our roles at our homes, collected them, and combined them all together to build this wonderful song we will now sing. So please listen to the lyrics and help reduce plastic waste.
Lonely us, lonely us. 우리 작은 행동이 모여서 Lonely earth, so lonely eyes. 더 이상 외롭지 않은 지구.
배달 어플 켜볼까
일회용 포장용기 간편하고 좋잖아
왜 난 생각을 못했을까 점점 병들어가는 지구
쉽게만 생각했었나봐 나는 이제 알았어
Warriors Warriors 나 이제 그 행동이 모여서 Warriors So Warriors 이제 우리 모두 함께 Warriors Warriors 더 이상 외롭지 않은 지구 Warriors
Thank you. We often say that youth is our future. Then their future would be upon the teens. From today's performance and presentations, I was impressed by how mature their thoughts were and innovative ideas they had. It was filled with their passionate vision to keep our only planet healthy and sound for all. Next, we have an exciting session ready for us. In this year's GYCC Town Hall meeting, climate activists from New York, Denmark, Bali, Brussels, and Geneva all participated and shared their voices so that they can share their exciting journey of climate action. So I would like to introduce a session moderator who led this panel discussion, which was held yesterday, partially. So co-president of the Green Environment Youth Korea GYC, Ms. Gyuri Cho, please come to the stand and tell us how it went. Could you share with us the inspiring stories you heard from them yesterday?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome for today's panel discussion. My name is Gyuri Cho. As previously mentioned, two panelists already had the meaningful panel discussion. Yesterday, we agreed that climate change and waste issues are the complicated problems. Therefore, we need various approaches with different stakeholders to tackle these issues. Not only changing our behaviors, but also reaching out our voice to policymakers and collaborating with civil society and entrepreneurs are the ways that we should do. Also, we mentioned that there are a lot of youth who are interested in climate crisis and willing to act immediately, but there are not enough platforms and financial support to gather brilliant ideas and implement it. Today, we also have the distinguished panelists to share their experiences and meaningful thoughts. Two panelists sent their videos. Jayatma Wickramanayake, who currently serves as the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. Next is Metalike, who is a CEO in food tech company called Too Good To Go. Let us have a closer look.
Distinguished guests, fellow youth, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to join all of you in this year's Global Youth Climate Challenge. My name is Jayatma Wickramanayake and I am the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. To begin my speech with, I would like to congratulate the organizers and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Korea for successfully bringing together 60 young people from different parts of the world to work together in providing climate solutions through intergenerational dialogue and intergenerational cooperation. In my role as the Youth Envoy, my mandate is to serve as an advisor and a representative to the UN Secretary General on youth-related matters and to be an advocate to bring the UN closer to young people and to bring young people closer to the UN. Similar to the role of the GYCC 2021 youth delegates this week, my everyday work involves fostering cooperation among youth, governments and the UN to expand the United Nations youth engagement and advocacy efforts across all three pillars of the UN's work: sustainable development, human rights, peace and security, and also including humanitarian action. Climate change is one of the priority areas of my office, and it's obvious that young people have the biggest price to pay from an increasing impact of climate change on our world. While there has been global attention on the role of fossil fuel and energy sources in driving CO2 emissions and global warming, the same cannot be said about the issue of waste management. Globally, about 37% of waste are disposed of at landfills and dump sites. This accounts for over 11% of global methane emissions, being the third largest anthropogenic source of methane emissions. In low-income countries, poor management of waste jeopardizes public health by causing outbreaks such as cholera or diarrhea and malaria that are mostly prevalent in children and young people. As young people, the climate and health cost of poor waste management is highly to our disadvantage. Our lives cannot be fully lived if our early years are faced with filthy environments and our future is faced with anxiety of inaction on climate change. Despite the substantial evidence on the role of waste in driving climate change, there hasn't been enough action to address the ever-growing waste generation problem. As youth, we cannot sit aside and watch our world being filled with waste. This is why I was very excited to learn that the delegates of this year's conference have been working on zero waste solutions. I'm very proud of all of you, and I look forward to seeing your solutions in real time and in action. Through my work, I come across many eco-entrepreneurs whose work inspires me and gives all of us a hope for a safer and a cleaner future. One such young leader is Jichen Liu from China, who was recognized by my office as a SDG Young Leader. The 23-year-old ecopreneur is the founder of Vivolution Tech and ClearPlate APP, which has the mission to reduce food waste through education and incentives. Together with other young leaders in climate action, including yourselves, we are pushing through all odds to steer our world towards a zero waste future. However, there is currently not enough momentum to address waste management as a climate solution. We are running out of time right now to take action and to save our world. We are equally running out of space to contain the millions of tons of waste we generate every day. We cannot keep piloting micro solutions for waste management. The previous UN Climate Conference in Madrid 2019 failed to address the connection between waste management and climate. The road to COP26 should establish such connections and consult with young innovators and experts who are leading this change for sustainable waste management practices. The actions of global youth prove that they are a critical ally to help governments achieve the global warming target of 1.5 degrees Celsius as set out in the Paris Agreement and achieve a global target of net zero by 2050. Additionally, I will urge governments to uphold their commitments to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which calls for each child to have the right to grow in a clean and safe environment. Youth are already taking matters into their own hands to protect their rights through several initiatives. They need the support of governments to adopt and bring their solutions to scale. Lastly, I will encourage all of you to not only become ecopreneurs, but also to develop your career into politics at the national, regional and international level. We need more young people in politics, in government offices, in parliaments, in Congress, at all decision-making tables to accelerate action on climate change and a zero-waste future. At the P4G Summit, I hope these recommendations and the solutions from the 60 youth delegates can be reflected in the outcomes of this summit. Once again, congratulations to all of you and I wish you all the best in the town hall meeting. Thank you.
Hi all. It's amazing to see so many people around the world participating in this event for the climate. Solving the climate crisis is a really, really important mission to choose, so we need to act now. We don't have a lot of time left. This idea of having a strong purpose has always been important for me. I started my life as an entrepreneur in 2007 when I co-founded a company called Endomondo. This was a running fitness app before the app stores were really invented yet. And the whole purpose and the whole idea really was to make fitness fun and thereby motivate more people to exercise. Back then, obesity was the topic and the problem that everyone talked about. Fast forward almost 10 years, I was on a bus leaving Copenhagen when I started chatting with the woman next to me. She showed me the Too Good To Go app on her phone, and I just fall in love with the concept instantly. I've always been one to save half an egg, just because, you know, it's still a valid resource. So intuitively for me, it just made a lot of sense. Only after then did I go back and research more around the issue of food waste, and I was shocked to learn that a third of all food is wasted, and that food waste is actually responsible for between 8 and 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So that to me meant that, you know, it didn't just make sense intuitively, it was also actually a really, really important solution here to a big problem. In fact, according to Project Drawdown, food waste is the #1 thing to solve if we want to change things around and stop the climate change. So it definitely makes sense. What we do at Too Good To Go is that we basically connect the food retailers, so bakeries, supermarkets and so on, who have surplus food left by the end of the business, with consumers who buy that food at a discount and go pick it up in the store around the time of closing. So this marketplace for surplus food is now live in 15 countries. We've saved a total of 75 million meals since the beginning. And this is with the help from 40 million users on one side and more than 70,000 different stores, so restaurants, bakeries, supermarkets and so on the other side. So we have some traction now. We're starting to have scale, but I really think that this issue is so big and the potential is enormous. So we have high ambitions and we want to save 1 billion meals by the end of 2024. And then we also want to make 250 million people aware of the issue around food waste within that time frame. So fairly lofty goals, but I think that's the way we're going to solve this. Set a high bar and then make the plans for how to achieve it. Thank you so much for deciding to play a role in solving climate crisis. We need all the best entrepreneurs, young people and good brains we can find. If I can just share a couple of pieces of advice, it would be first, if you're gonna jump into this as an entrepreneur, make sure you pick something that you're truly, truly passionate about. There will be times where the only thing getting you through the day will probably be that passion. So make sure you can tick that box. I also personally think that if you're going to invest all your time awake in something, make sure it matters. The other advice I will give is just to choose the right people along your journey, especially the first people you choose, maybe even your co-founders. Make sure they're the right ones. Make sure that you believe in the same things, that you share the most fundamental values. Then you will make a great team. Thanks a lot and best of luck with everything. Bye.
Lastly, let us move on to Melody Wyzen, who is the founder of Bye Bye Plastic Bags and Utopia. She really wanted to join this session in person, but because of the time difference and schedule, she delivered pre-recorded video. Fortunately, technical team converted her video into hologram so we can hear her stories more vividly. So please remind that this hologram was pre-recorded. Hello, Melody. Nice to get to know you. Could you briefly introduce yourself and your organization, Bye Bye Plastic Bags and Utopia?
Hello, my name is Melody Wyzen. I'm 20 years old and a full-time change maker. But my journey started a long time ago, it feels like. My journey as an activist started when I was 12 years old. Growing up here on the beautiful island of Bali, Indonesia, plastic pollution was a very strong reality. There was no escaping it. Plastic was everywhere. And so at the age of 12, together with my younger sister, Isabel, back then, we said, enough. What are we going to do about the plastic problem? And the rest is pretty much history. We started our first organization called Bye Bye Plastic Bags that now focuses on helping implement the ban on single-use plastic bags right here on Bali. Today, my mission is to help empowering more young change makers, because I believe that every one of us can be a change maker, and that's through my new project, Youthtopia.
And second question is, what kinds of problems are your country dealing with about waste issues, and what do you do in your organizations to solve these problems?
As you heard in my introduction, growing up here, plastic pollution being everywhere was one of the main issues that our country was dealing with here in Indonesia, right? I think one of the bigger picture long-term issues is actually the fact that we don't have a waste management system in place at a large scale all across the island and all across the country. Waste management, that means collection, that means separation, to be able to manage our waste sustainably and in an organized manner. And currently, that is very much lacking. What we do as a youth-led organization with Bye Bye Plastic Bags, we've been focusing very much on the education, on the awareness, making sure that people's mindsets are changed and actually understand the problem in the first place. So that's where our biggest contribution and role has really been with Bye Bye Plastic Bags. How many minutes is it?
And third question is, what is the most important value that you and your organization is seeking?
So we represent the young generation. So that means that there's never a lack of creative and good ideas. The way we tackled it, or our solutions to contribute to the massive issue of plastic pollution, and specifically plastic bags, was that we were doing every week beach cleanups. We are doing a lot of educational workshops, so spending a lot of time in classrooms, but also with community gatherings, because where we do believe change happens in the classroom, we also believe that all levels of society need to be involved and come together to create that solution. So that's where us as a youth organization, us as Bye Bye Plastic Bags, play a large role in connecting the dots here on the island of Bali, but also now in 60 locations all around the world with youth-led groups of Bye Bye Plastic Bags.
And fourth question is, what are some difficulties to continue youth activities?
I wish I could hear all the answers live from all the other panelists, because I'm sure that their insights would be really interesting, especially from my perspective. 8 years on the front lines with Bye Bye Plastic Bags is a really long time. I started when I was 12 years old. Today I'm 20 years old, and there is still so much more work to do. I think one of the biggest difficulties in continuing, right, in that long-term vision of change is actually the first question of how we keep it going for that long. One of the most frustrating things as a young change maker is that change is not happening fast enough. It took us 6 years of campaigning as Bye Bye Plastic Bags, and before us, many more organizations and individuals championing for this ban to come into place right here on Bali. 6 years for one single-use item. So I think the difficulty is why and how is change not happening fast enough? And secondly, how do we keep that momentum active with as many people involved as possible? Because I think what we have to keep in mind is that if change is not happening on a systemic level, our individual actions, we can lose hope. We can lose the belief that we are working towards change. So I think for us, grassroots action is what we have been seeing, is what we are empowered by, but the challenges is then when we do not see a top-down approach or a systemic change happening.
And this is the last question. What should be the role of youth to prevent climate crisis?
Now, this question I absolutely love because this is what our newest project, Youthtopia, is all about. How can every single young person feel like they can be a young change maker too? And the best part about this is that we first have to understand that change making comes in many different forms. You don't always have to be the founder of something. You don't always have to be speaking in front of people if you don't enjoy speaking in front of people. Be a researcher, create videos, research. There are so many different ways that you can contribute to being a change maker and creating change. So my answer to this question is really for all of you watching, sit with yourself for a minute and think about what you are passionate about personally, connect it to an issue in your local community, and then simply just go for it.
Thank you very much, Melody. Today, I was very inspired by their experiences and passions. As I mentioned earlier, we have a pre-recorded video from yesterday. Even though we live in different countries, I feel we become close to each other due to the digital technologies, which means hologram. Do not miss it until the session is over. Let me conclude by thanking all the panelists for the excellent insights on the questions that were raised. Thank you. This is a pre-recorded session, and I would like to invite two panelists, Jan and Christoph. Jan is the Secretariat in Water and Climate Coalition at World Meteorological Organization, and he is also the lead of Global Affairs Unit for GYCC Glasgow. Christoph is the Global Public Affairs Manager at Too Good To Go. Hi, Jan and Christoph. Jan, could you briefly introduce yourself, especially about your activities in terms of climate change?
Sure. Thank you so much, Yuri. Again, annyeonghaseyo. Thank you so much for inviting me in this program. It's my pleasure to be part of this. And yeah, again, I'm John Carol Guillermo. I am from the Philippines. I'm a survivor of the world's strongest typhoon back in 2013. And right now I am involved in Yungo, the official youth constituency of the UNFCCC. And I'm also leading the Global Affairs Unit for this year's 16th UN Climate Change Conference of Youth that will happen in Glasgow this October. I'm also a consultant of the Carnegie Climate Governance Initiative in New York and currently a secretariat of the World Meteorological Organization.
Thank you, Jen. And it's a great pleasure to meet you because I've been working with Yungo members when I was in COP and KOI, and I was very motivated by Yungo's members' passionate. And Christoph, could you briefly introduce yourself and Too Good To Go? I heard Too Good To Go is the food tech company dealing with food waste, right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Thank you. We're delighted to be here, and thank you for inviting us. So I'm Christoph Dirksens. I'm Global Public Affairs Manager at Too Good To Go. Too Good To Go is indeed a social impact company that really tries to both empower and inspire everybody to fight food waste together. In my role in public affairs, I'm aiming to inspire one particular group of stakeholders in that fight against food waste, and that is politicians, policymakers. We know that the legislation and policy can really move the needle and achieve meaningful change on food waste reduction. And so it's by engaging with local, national, and global policymakers that we try to have a significant impact on the climate change reduction through reduction of the food waste mountain that we know. Thanks.
Thank you, Christoph. It's really nice to meet you, and I'm inspired by Too Good To Go, and you're working with many different stakeholders. So let's go to the second question. What is the most urgent issues about waste that your country is faced with, or what kinds of problems are you interested in? Jen, could you explain your thoughts?
Yeah, that could be an interesting question. So basically in the Philippines, being a developing country, our waste problem is actually from our day-to-day lives of operation, like from a single purchasing of let's say shampoo or soap or even our food products. So maybe this problem is actually rooted to our economic stability, where our purchasing power is very low, especially in far-flung areas in my village, in my town, in the Philippines. So because of this purchasing power, most of the products in the Philippines are packed in smaller portion, like sachets or small packaging. Unlike for developing countries, like for example, I'm here in Geneva right now, I can observe that they can actually buy it in bulk or in bigger sizes. So we can recycle materials, or we can recycle the containers here. But in the Philippines, it's a totally different story, because we can only buy this small stuff because we can only buy based from what we have financially. So from this idea, connecting back again to our economic stability, we don't have a good infrastructure for waste material recovery. And even if we have, I can also admit that we have a weak policy on our waste management. So from this, I think what we are doing right now is youth has a platform in the Philippines to influence directly in the legislative body, where we can pitch our own bills. So last year, one of the local government that we tried to help them in creating this policy successfully passed a law prohibiting the use of single plastic in their municipality. So we are aiming for this bill to be replicated in other municipalities, and hopefully this could be a good benchmark for other areas in the Philippines to be pressured and do the same thing. So that's what we are doing as of the moment.
Thank you, Jen. From Jen's story, we can realize that changing our individual behavior is not enough to deal with zero waste and waste management. Proper regulations and proper policy needs it. And beyond that, we need system change, right? And Christoph, what do you think about the most urgent issues about waste?
I mean, for us, it's all about food waste. Food waste is a massive issue. In Denmark, where Too Good To Go is based, we waste around 700,000 tons of food per year. At global level, that figure is a staggering 1.3 billion tons. And if you look at the global picture, actually, 1/3 of all the food that we produce ends up being wasted. And that figure is not only an abomination from a social perspective. If you look at the more than 800 million people globally who go hungry every day, but also from an environmental perspective, food waste has an enormous impact. When we waste food, we also waste the resources, the precious resources like water, like land, that went into producing that food. So we know today that food waste alone is responsible for 8% of greenhouse gas emissions globally. So reducing food waste would go already great lengths into reversing the climate change situation that we know. What we're trying to do at Too Good To Go is both empower people by giving them the tools to reduce food waste in their day-to-day lives, and also inspire them to adopt new habits and new practices to fight food waste. To empower people, we've created a marketplace for surplus food that connects people to food stores that have leftover food. So at the end of the day, people can order a magic bag of surplus food to avoid that food would go to waste in the food store. So we work with hotels, with restaurants, with supermarkets, with bakeries, you name it, to really tackle the food waste problem that they have in the food stores. And so this is really a triple win solution, because consumers can buy leftover food at reduced price and help play their parts in the food waste, help play a part in the reduction of food waste. It's also a win for food stores who have to throw away less food, and it's a win for the environment overall. Aside from the empowering through the marketplace, we also inspire through new habits, through best practices, through campaigns. We try to inspire in schools, in households, with policymakers, as I said earlier, but also within business practices, to really try to regain a newfound respect for food across the world, and thereby lead to less food waste overall.
Thank you, Christoph. From Christoph's stories, we can learn that food waste is linked with many different issues such as hunger and greenhouse gas emissions and using resources. And third question will be difficulties to continue youth activities in terms of zero waste and climate action, since all of you are hardly involved in solving waste issues and climate crisis? Jan, could you share your stories?
Yeah, again, that's an interesting thing to discuss. I guess for me, one of the barriers or challenges on continuing the youth participation in this discussion to zero waste and climate action is, number one, is platform. Platform where we can speak up, platform where we'll be heard on our sentiments and demands, and platform where we will be involved in creating these solutions. And aside from this platform, we also need to capacitate our youth, because sometimes we are eager, but we are not at par with the standards, or we are not actually understanding the language whenever we are at the negotiating table. So we need to equip our young people with the right knowledge, with the right jargons used, so we could have a better understanding why decisions such this will be taken. And of course, one last thing that we always need to consider is resources. Our young people from different parts of the world are so interested to be involved. However, we can only do much. We need to have resources, we need to have the linkages in order for us to activate or to do something for this discussion of zero waste and climate action. Again, having this platform, technical knowledge and resources, I think we can resolve this and we can do this all together if only we have the right opportunities closer to the young people in all parts of the world.
Thank you, John. John said three things. First one is platform to reach out youth voice, and second was technical knowledge, and third is financial support. And Christoph, what do you think about the difficulties to continue youth activities?
I mean, one barrier or hurdle that we see, and maybe that adds to John's point, the 3 points made earlier, although it connects a bit to the resources point. From our perspective, it's about connecting young people. We believe that young people across the world will have great ideas when it comes to solving climate change or tackling part of the climate change solution. The question is, how do you make those ideas a reality? How do you get them to the surface in order to get tested, to get implemented, and to see if they work? So we think that those ideas, those young people need the connection to businesses, to entrepreneurs, to investors in order to get that testing and try to make those ideas a reality. How do we do that? It's really also a responsibility that, for example, businesses have to be more to have a bigger social impact in their business model and play more of a role in trying to make those ideas a reality, and that will in the end only help them to make their business more sustainable. I mean, we think Too Good To Go is a great example of that. Too Good To Go was actually started by, or through the idea that 4 students in Copenhagen, Denmark had when they went to a buffet restaurant and they saw the amounts of food in the buffet restaurant that were thrown away, just to ensure that consumers, when they come to the buffet, they always have a full plate of everything that they're looking at. And they thought there must be something to do about all that food that is better than just to throw it away like that. And it's really because they had or they managed to get that connection to entrepreneurs that this idea managed to scale and to grow into what it became today. I mean, I didn't mention it before. We're very proud to say that by now we've saved 75 million meals from going to waste. But to answer your question, for us, it's about connecting people to make their ideas a reality.
Thank you, Christoph. Christoph talked about the connecting the youth to implement the great ideas to support the climate change. And I wish there are a lot of companies and platforms that youth can reach out their voice, like Too Good To Go. The last question, what should be the role of youth to prevent climate crisis? What can youth do in their daily lives? John, could you share your opinions?
Yeah, again, climate crisis, Guri, is a big thing, a big discussion, a big problem to resolve. We can only do it in a multifaceted or multi-sectoral approach where we can do a collaborative efforts between the government, the people, and the private stakeholders. But to answer your question, we can answer it for me in letter I. First is to continue informing people. Inform your friends, inform your peers, inform your colleagues that we are affected. We are all affected by the havoc of climate change and its effects. And another thing is when people are informed, we can elect the right leaders. And when we say right the leaders, we can influence the policy. And when we have robust policies, you know, the mindset, the behavior of the people will also change because they are obliged to do it. And as an individual, we also need to consider that we can do our part. We should say, I shall do it. When we say I shall do it, try to reduce your waste, try to reduce unsustainable resources, and try to engage in discussions in climate conversations, whether it's globally or whether it's locally or in the global level. So I think from having people informed, influence policies, and from your individual perspective, the role will play a vital role in preventing the climate crisis, Yuri.
Thank you. Christoph, what do you think about the role of youth activities in climate change?
Yes, I mean, for me, it's first and foremost about sustainable habits, about adopting sustainable habits, but mostly about encouraging others to adopt sustainable habits. To quote Sir David Attenborough on this, you know, he says that the one thing that everybody can do to fight climate change is to not waste. Don't waste food, don't waste power, don't waste resources, don't waste electricity. In fact, reducing food waste is the easiest and also the most impactful solution that everybody can take in day-to-day life to reduce the effects of climate change. So that would be by far the biggest encouragement on our side. In addition to that, I think young people have demonstrated that they can hold local communities, that they can hold policymakers accountable for the policies and the measures that they are implementing. We've seen that through the international climate movement, and the Fridays for Future really had a great impact, at least in Europe, on the development of the Green Deal and on the development of more sustainable climate policies in the future.
Thank you, Christoph. So for today's panel discussion, we can think about the important thing for youth activities in climate change is building grassroots and to reach out to other different stakeholders such as policymakers, or governments and entrepreneurs. And also we need to change our habits. Actually, changing our habits is quite difficult, but reducing food waste will be one of the best ideas to change our behaviors. Thank you for today's panel discussion, and thank you, Jan and Christoph. Thank you.
With pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, and I'm part of Team 6 Forest Stores, and I think zero waste is changing your lifestyle. So for example, you can stop using single-use plastics and be really aware of what you're throwing away. Make sure you're cleaning out plastics before you recycle them, and always try to carry around a container so you can take out with your own containers, not with single-use plastics. And there's also a way of taking strolls and cleaning up trash while you're doing them.
Hello, my name is Santiago. I am from Colombia, team number 5. The way I'm helping the environment to achieve zero waste is by always using my tumbler when I'm wanting to drink water or coffee, and then always when I go to groceries, take my own bag so I don't have to use these one-time plastic bags that are so bad for the environment.
Hi, my name's Jack Bathe. I'm in Team 4 here at the GYCC. In terms of the responsibilities and the actions that we should take to do with zero waste, I'd really encourage people, including businesses and governments, to think very carefully about the amount of consumption that they need to engage in. We should only consume as much as we need, and we should do our best to encourage actions that can reduce that waste to the bare minimum.
Hi, my name is Loami, and I'm from team number 3. And one of the activities that I usually do to reduce waste is I actually recycle a lot in my house. And another thing that I do, it's like take with me my tumbler. So whenever I go to a coffee shop, whenever I go buy coffee or any drink, I will actually take my tumbler with me. And of course, you can actually get some discounts, so it's like it's profitable, and we can also help the environment.
Hello everyone, my name is Claudio. I'm from team number 2. Well, my expectation to join to the program is mainly the networking for to formulate the new generations of climate change action for the development of new solutions and strategies for the mitigation and reduction of plastic waste, mainly from plastic industry.
My name is Paul Sarate. I'm a member of the team number 1. Regarding what I'm doing for zero waste, first I started to research about it because it's nothing wrong if you don't know. And specifically, I decided to change my behavior regarding clothing because I discovered that the clothing industry is one of the most generating of greenhouse gases. So I decided to reduce my consumption of clothes, reuse more, and try to take care of my clothes.
To the government and to the president, keep supporting the cool youth just like us, because hot earth needs cool youth. As a message from myself for P4G leaders, I want to ask them to support the ambitious young generation to have a better life and save our planet.
I ask to the P4G leaders to become more concerned about climate and ecological issue, because I think it's the major stake of our generation and maybe of the century. So we have to be more aware about what is happening, not only in the richest countries, but also all around the world, especially the poorest country, and help them to develop sustainable development.
Thank you, everyone. I think it was really timely and relevant for us to listen to their voices, especially through the interview. We were able to hear their voices and their proposals to the P4G leaders who will be attending starting tomorrow. So it was wonderful, and thank you also to all the climate activists and startup entrepreneurs for sending us the video. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just heard that a special video message has been sent from the Republic of Colombia. Shall we take a listen?
Colombia has assumed a leadership role in prompting global action to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Colombia's green growth priorities are defined in our National Development Plan. Colombia has set up a bold agenda that includes, among other things, planting 180 million trees by 2022, reducing deforestation to zero and greenhouse gases emissions by 51% by 2030, and carbon neutrality by 2050. Because of these priorities, Colombia would be more than honored in hosting the 2023 Global Youth Climate Challenges in our country. We strongly believe that this forum will provide multiple opportunities for global youth interested in climate action. Your voice, the voice of the youth, will play a key role in climate change and foster green growth for future generations. We are proud to say that 52% of our national territory is covered up by forest. However, deforestation is one of the biggest environmental challenges, not only Colombia's. And that's why we will propose deforestation as the main topic of the Global Youth Climate Challenges 2023 Forum, taking into account our goal to achieve zero deforestation by 2030. We would then like to thank the Republic of Korea and the Kingdom of Denmark for trusting us with this great responsibility.
So this is a wonderful news. So GYCC 2023 will be held in the Republic of Colombia, and I'm sure you will have a chance to travel all across the world and visit Colombia and pool your insights together, share ideas to fight against the serious problem of deforestation in Colombia. So the next session, we are almost going towards the end of the town hall meeting. And today, we have put together a performance, voice performance with youth participants. Let's take a look.
In my dreams of tomorrow, I envision a world where people can harmonize with nature that does not involve hate among human beings, living things, and nature. I, Cheong-hyun, pledge to the responsibility as a citizen of nature to live in harmony with all the living things. I pledge that my promise will not be stumbled upon the hardship and obstacles. To all of you, I, Cheong-hyun, promise to fulfill my pledge for our future and for our Mother Earth.
In my dreams of tomorrow, I envision a world where we feel a deeper connection with our planet and make taking care of it a priority. I, Carmen Maria Quiñonero Lopez, pledge to be more aware of my own actions, have more compassion with Mother Nature, and practice what I preach. To all of you, I, Carmen Maria Quiñonero Lopez, promise to fulfill my pledge for our future and for our Mother Earth.
In my dreams of tomorrow, I envision a world where breathing fresh air is no longer a luxury, the environment is no longer a victim of economic development, and environmental protection is no longer just a slogan. I, Ilan Luo, pledge to infiltrate the zero waste concept into every little detail of life, continue to influence friends around me, and lay a step-by-step foundation for achieving the above goals. To all of you, I, Ilan Luo, promise to fulfill my pledge for our future and for our Mother Earth.
In my dreams of tomorrow, I envisage a world where empathy overrides the economy. I hope for a world in which our efforts are channeled into pursuing economic and developmental paths which enrich the experience of humanity as a whole. I, Jack Bathe, pledge to uphold these values and to direct my efforts in pursuit of these objectives. To all of you, I, Jack Bathe, promise to fulfill my pledge for our future and for our Mother Earth.
In my dreams of tomorrow, I envision a world where we all come together and act as one global society towards climate change, and where we look at policy implementation as a necessity towards preserving the only planet we have. I, Mildred Nakagwe, pledge to do the following to the best of my ability towards zero waste and educate other people about the relevance of sustainability to all of us. To all of you, I, Mildred Nakagwe, promise to fulfill my pledge for our future and for our Mother Earth.
In my dreams of tomorrow, I envision a world where we do not have to check the air quality every morning and no longer need to wear masks. I, Ningyeon Kim, pledge to be a global citizen and widen my perspective to understand our planet's environmental problems. With respect, dignity, and creativity, I will collaborate with the youth to find an ideal solution for zero waste. To all of you, I, Ningyeon Kim, promise to fulfill my pledge for our future and our Mother Earth.
Everyone, how did you enjoy this wonderful performance? Please join me in giving them a big round of applause. All right, so in the background, there are some more pledges from our youth participants of GYCC 2021. So these are very powerful, and I have high hopes that starting tomorrow, there will be P4G Summit, and your hopes and pledges and promises will be all delivered to P4G leaders and the world. Thank you very much. And so it's a wrap. Before that, I'm curious to hear from one more person today. One of our distinguished guests have taken her time to grace us with this event. And today is indeed a memorable day in that the 2050 Carbon Neutrality Committee has been inaugurated just this afternoon. And I would like to introduce you to the new chair of the 2050 Carbon Neutrality Committee, Yoon Sun-jin. Please come to the stage.
Greetings. I am Yoon Sun-jin, chair of the 2050 Carbon Neutrality Committee, which was inaugurated this afternoon under the observance of President Moon Jae-in and Prime Minister Kim Boo-kyum. I am very grateful that I was part of this wonderful event. I truly enjoyed listening to the voices of young, bright minds from around the world who are actively engaging in climate action to protect our only planet, Mother Earth. The P4G Seoul Summit is about to kick off tomorrow. State leaders will be joining us from all over the world. Last week, there were 10 special sessions held in conjunction with the Green Future Week. Among them, I believe the most important one was definitely the global youth climate challenges. Today, we are celebrating the finale of Climate Action for Zero Waste. I sincerely appreciate your hard work, commitment, and dedication. GYCC 2021 will be remembered as the first international conference hosted by the 2050 Carbon Neutrality Committee. Taking this opportunity, I would like to recognize all the helping hands from the past 2 years. First and foremost, I express my deepest gratitude to the former chairman of the National Council on Climate and Air Quality and the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon. My special thanks also go to all those who have designed and prepared for this meaningful conference for global youth. Through GYCC 2021, I'm confident that your desperate calls to fight against the climate crisis have been heard loud and clear and resonated with people all over the world. Now, it is time for each and every country to do its part and heed those calls. Working toward the 2050 net zero target would be the first step. The 2050 Carbon Neutrality Committee and the Republic of Korea will take the lead in this journey. I ask for your unwavering support and participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, so it's a wrap. So there will be now the certificate awarding ceremony, and the certificates will be conferred to you by Secretary General Ban. I'd like to give thanks to all of you for your support in the GYCC Town Hall meeting and the P4G special session on future generation. I convey my deepest gratitude for your high support, participation, and engagement. Lastly, I would like to thank all the GYCC youth participants who have actively engaged in in-depth discussion to make this today possible. And also, under the theme of zero waste, thank you so much for coming up with brilliant ideas that can be surely adopted in the future. So I was Euna Yu, and I was very honored to be your MC tonight. Thank you very much.